I knew Greg back since the 80s, and he was an electrician for us. He started out as a service tech in the organization. Was loyal to the company, and especially to me. He was dedicated to what he was doing. He really was dedicated in trying to help people better themselves. That's what I always liked about him.
My first impression of Greg is that he was a very thoughtful, a very serious person, and a very knowledgeable person. The first time I met him was in one of the board meetings with Terry. At that time he was the president of the board, and so he was busy signing checks and doing a bunch of things, and so my first impression was, this is a serious guy. I mean, he is a serious person, but he also has a very fun side to him too, but that was my first impression.
I was on the board of directors a week, and I believe it was like 1993 or 94, and I'd been on the board for about a year by then, and I remember being very excited to see him come onto the board, because I'm pretty sure I was the only 20-something on the board, and the rest of the board was all more veterans, you know, 40s and 50s. And so I was just glad to see him, because I know I had another 20-something on the board. And so I was glad that we had somebody from Rexmoor appearing on the board, and didn't take long for, you know, his involvement in the board to see why he was chosen to represent Rexmoor on our board, because he was, you know, very well spoken, you know, very astute, and, you know, very impactful to, you know, when he was at the meetings. So that's my first memories of seeing him.
But it wasn't really until I got involved in WECA where I got to know Greg. I was actually intimidated. It was kind of amazing how much he seemed to know about WECA and the program and all of the day-to-day operation. And as I got more involved and time passed, I started to really understand how long he's been involved since the get-go day one, and how he's built so much with all the staff and support of all the members and everything else.
My first impression meeting Greg was, wow, this guy's packed full of information and history of WECA. And I didn't think anybody had gone back as far as he did, but he's one of the original guys that knew pretty much how we got to where we're at today. And I was impressed with his depth of knowledge.
As I transitioned my roles through the company, I really strived to help and mentor people. And so I got with Greg, probably in 2018 or 2019, and talked with him and asked him if he could help me in my leadership development. And through that, we went through probably a year of just real in-depth leadership training, and I really got to know a lot more about myself. And if it wasn't for Greg, I don't think I'd be where I am today, not just in my professional career, but in my personal achievements as well.
Greg was my mentor and inspiration for just always growing and doing better. He started mentoring me in 2008, and we mentored together through 2015 consistently, and then off and on all throughout our work together.
I got to know Greg as a fellow board member. I got to know Greg as a mentor, and then I got to know Greg as a friend. So I feel extremely lucky along the way. I would listen to Greg. He was the voice in the room. He had the scars from what he'd been through. He had the stories, but he told the stories, and he had the information. He proposed it in such a way where you wanted to listen to it. It wasn't somebody boasting. It was somebody telling a story factually and telling it in a way that is something that you could remember. There was hooks to it. There was links to it. There was a story behind it, and you learn from them.
I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to, you know, prior to his passing, but even after his passing, about the mentorship he provided, and, you know, being on the executive team at Rexmoor is amazing experience. And I can say that he touched every single one of us in that room to a greater degree. And as I mentioned before, I think helping us find in ourselves what he saw that we didn't see, and then realizing that in our lives has had an impact on a lot of people.
So I got to meet with him on a pretty frequent basis to just discuss how it worked and questions that I had. And he was so patient, very willing to answer all of my questions. No question was dumb. And so I really appreciated that. He taught me so much about how to navigate and understand certain things that we were allowed to say, not say, can do, can't do. And it just meant a lot to me that he was willing to put so much time and energy into me, and would always try to get the best out of me through that process.
All throughout my working with Greg, he was always there when you needed him. If you had a question that you weren't sure of related to the industry or anything, he always made time for you.
We got to a point where he would see I was a little bit confused in the meetings, and he'd call me afterwards, call me on the way home, or call me the next day. And like, hey, you looked like you weren't quite getting that, didn't quite understand it. I didn't know if you grasp it. If you had any questions on it, we'd talk for maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and a couple cases, maybe half hour. And then we got to the point where we go have breakfast before a meeting.
Because Greg, started out in an apprenticeship program as an apprentice, and then worked himself up to journeyman and then instructor, and then up into the management level. He understood, that the training program would need to evolve as the electrical industry evolved.
We're proud here at WECA of how amazing our apprenticeship program is. Greg has a great deal of responsibility with that. His understanding, having come from the trades and lived in the trades, and his deep appreciation for education and coming up with the right platform for education has allowed WECA's educational program to surpass pretty much everybody in the United States, I can say that.
No matter what he was doing, where he was at, he was always advocating for our field workforce. And his value for the field, for the trade, for the industry, really just was inspiring, and something that I'll always remember him for.
One of the times that I got to interact with Greg that was very impactful and meaningful to me, it was early in my career, and he had just hired a new training manager for Rex Moore, and he brought the training manager over here and to just sort of understand what we do here at WECA. And Greg asked me to just share with the training manager what we do. And when he said that, I knew he was not talking about the actual classes and things. It was more about the philosophy that we do in terms of creating a good learning environment.
I wouldn't want to see where WECA is today if we hadn't had the impact that Greg put on it for the last 30 years. It is really hard to visualize, where it would be. I know it would not be where it is today.
Yeah, he was one of the original guys that was movers and shakers within WECA. And when I joined up, he was well entrenched in the leadership and really was the catalyst for our group. He let us know which direction we should go, how we should get there, and what steps we need to take to achieve that.
Greg's contribution to WECA it's immeasurable. He had the background of first being an apprentice electrician, and then a journeyman, of course, and then an instructor. He taught apprenticeship classes, and then obviously working at a high level in the management of a large electrical contractor. And so his background, combined with his very high intelligence, gave him a vision that's always helped WECA.
Greg was instrumental in working with the other contractors in WECA to get the apprenticeship program approved by the state of California. And there was many battles and many hearings that Greg had to go to in order to get that approved. And he was also instrumental in helping establish the program and the curriculum for that program. So he was a real leader in WECA for the apprenticeship program.
His personal commitment to always doing what is right and what is best translated into when WECA was first part of IEC. Greg and the board and Terry tried to work diligently with IEC to help them understand that what we need to do here in California is different than what is happening in the rest of the country, specifically around our textbooks and things like that, which ultimately led to Greg's drive for excellence drove the board, which then led to WECA pulling away from IEC and creating our own curriculum department, writing our own text. I'm pretty confident that was probably the majority of that was based on Greg's influence.
Yeah, Greg's contribution to the electrical industry is like unheard of. You know, he sacrificed a lot of his time and efforts, not just for WECA, but for the entire organization. We're involved in a peer group with other contractors, and he grew close to them and provided mentorship and guidance and wisdom to them. I think WECA would not be where it is today without Greg's leadership and his determination and his commitment to not only the organization, but all those that touch the organization. It's obviously had a lasting impact.
You know, one of the memories I have of Greg and how impactful he was to me was, you know, we would go to some meetings down at the state capitol. And when I say meetings, we would go to assembly meetings. And so it'd be the full assembly in the big theater of, you know, the state capitol. And normally we were, you know, down there with the unfriendlies, you know, that we were trying to, you know, fight for the merit shop, and, you know, the union were the one that was presenting the issue that we were down there to speak on. And I just remember how impactful he was. He was so articulate and so well-spoken and so wise, and just his selection of words and the message that he gave. And it was always good when he'd go first, because it kind of raised the confidence for the rest of us that were up there to speak at the podium. And I just remember, you know, being glad that I was following him, because he set the stage so strongly for us, because we all had a passion for the merit shop, but he just, you know, I guess illustrated that passion, you know, better than most people. And so it would give you some strength when you went up to the podium to, you know, to try to be strong like he was. He was really a true warrior for the merit shop industry and for the opportunity to work union free. And so it was just very impactful to watch him and see his ability to, you know, speak in those big arenas.
He was one of the leaders, he was one of the mentors, and people looked up to him for his guidance on how to proceed with a lot of the issues that we had. I think he was very instrumental in expanding WECA to a statewide basis.
Me personally, I'm a local contractor here in Sacramento, so as long as we had WECA locally, you know, I was going to be happy. But they saw that, you know, just being a small, you know, one entity in Sacramento wasn't going to give us a strong enough foundation to go the long haul, to make it to last. And so that's when, you know, the vision that, you know, that he and others had to, you know, expand down to Southern California, to San Diego and Central Valley, and, you know, sometimes in the Bay Area. The vision was to get a stronger base.
Greg was the driving force in expansion outside of California, first to Arizona and then to Utah. Without Greg, that wouldn't have happened.
When I got involved, there was a lot of discussions about expanding outside of the state for a lot of the political pressures that were happening in the state of California. And I thought that was like a really good idea, and I think Greg was at the forefront of that. And one of the ideas was Utah, and he was instrumental in getting Hunt on board to be sort of the anchor member to get the Utah office and program going.
I remember being a part of WECA board when we wanted to go to Arizona, when we wanted to go to Utah and open up those training platforms. He knew before any of us what the hurdles were going to be, what the stumbling blocks were going to be, and he helped ensure that all of us, as we move forward, we converted those stumbling blocks into stepping stones because of what he knew.
I sometimes questioned how many Gregs there were, because I knew the Greg that was making an impact at Rexmoor, and I knew the Greg that was making an impact at WECA, and then you'd also hear about all these outside activities he did.
Yeah, we both like to hike, both love the Eastern Sierras, loved the Ruby Mountain area in Nevada. He skied it, I've hiked it several times. And so we would a lot of times talk about different aspects of mostly the Eastern Sierras that we liked.
And I also know that he was, you know, we had a place up in Nevada the last few years where he was up doing off-road motorcycle and, you know, running the tracks up there.
He and I talked a lot about skiing, and he used to tell me of all the trips he would go on, how he would jump out of a helicopter and start snow skiing down these mountains. And I knew about how old he was, and I commented to him before, you must have knees and ankles of a 4-year-old, because there's nobody your age that should be able to do what you do.
I look back and we do have New Orleans trip where the WECA crew went out there and did trainings, and training is trainings. You retain what you retain, but the after time, the bonding with your team, the sitting in a couple bars and doing some things. And the first and last time I'll ever do an oyster, Greg Anderson got Christina and I to do it.
You know, funny story, everyone knows Greg loves spicy food, but everyone knew when he was eating spicy food because he would sweat profusely, but man, he sure loved it.
I think Greg would want to be remembered by putting people first. I think that's what drove Greg, is he wanted to make sure that others were valued and that others were treated appropriately. And he liked to have a good time doing that, you know what I mean? He loved relationships. Like I said, there's very few people that could go in and give the president of the organization a hard time if that person didn't know he truly cared about him, right? I mean, Greg was an amazing coach. He was an amazing mentor. Like I said, he was very skilled at making sure everybody felt heard. And so, how do I think Greg wants to be remembered? I think Greg wants to be remembered for his impact on people. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what he cared about most.
He left this world a better place than he found it. He was always trying to make things better, better for his employees, better for his company, better for the WECA program.
Greg should definitely be remembered for obviously all the things, his wisdom, his leadership, his mentorship, his commitment, but also a great deal of social connectivity with our fellow members in the organization and keeping things light and fun, even though sometimes it's difficult and challenging. He kept a good balance in those moments, and I think that's an appreciation that the whole board carries for Greg, and it'll probably live on in infamy.
Although his life was cut short, Greg's contribution to me, to my company, to our industry, and our WECA program was nothing short of amazing. The guy really took us from point A to point Z, all because of his leadership, all because of his determination, all because of his tenacity. Because there were some dark days, but he helped shine the light on where we were going, and we all followed along. And what a great mentor for me personally and for our program here at WECA, that he was a part of it. Again, it was cut short, but boy was I glad to be a part of his life and this group while he was around.
When we went to his memorial, his celebration, it was fun to get to learn about Greg from all the people that weren't directly connected to the electrical industry. You know, to listen to his family who weren't part of the business share stories about him, to listen to his brothers and sisters share stories about him, to listen to his wife tell stories about Greg. Obviously, we still don't know the whole story of Greg, but you know, definitely I felt honored to get to be a part of listening to more of Greg than what I knew here at WECA.
Everything about Greg to me was awesome. And I know that there's good and bad times, and he shared the good and bad times too, and you learn from both of those. You strive for the good times and you try and learn from the bad times, and that's what a mentor and friend does, and that was Greg for me. So I appreciate you, Greg. I miss you, buddy, and at some point I'll do that right, and I'll be thinking about you when I do.
Obviously through WECA and his involvement with WECA, through Rex Moore, still, you know, there's so many people within the company that were trained and developed by Greg, you know, and that's going to live on forever. His passion just trickles down through. It's just infectious to anybody that he met and who he talked to, and you know, without a doubt, his legacy is going to live on forever.
I'm excited and a little bit humbled today. Today is the day that we're finally getting our signage up for the Greg Anderson training facility. You know, it's going to be wonderful to be able to honor Greg in this way, but at the same time, it's still just a reminder that we lost him. But either way, I'm excited that the building is transforming and we're getting his name on it and showing the community how much we valued his commitment, not only to WECA, but to our industry and to our local community.
The tribute that we as a board decided to do by changing the name of WECA's headquarters to the Greg Anderson Training Facility is a small token of appreciation that all of us have for his contributions, his leadership, particularly in training, his vision for the training for all journeyman electricians in California, his vision for that merit shop advocacy and the merit shop philosophy was perfect. The small contributions that we as a board can give back to he and his family by placing those names on that training facility is very small, because his contribution was light years larger than that.
The impact he had is immeasurable, and I think one of the best things that we could have done, and the best thing we have done in a long time, was dedicate that WECA building to Greg Anderson, and it will now read Greg Anderson Training Facility.
He's just an amazing man. He was selfless with his time, and he once told me the ultimate form of selfishness is selfless, and he lived that. Like, he was always selfless.